Hey guys, Broadus here from the Crown Global Media Studios. Looking forward to our official launch on September 1st. Super excited about myself and Vaj Lombardi working through this season and then working into draft season and to bring you the absolute best of Cowboy content and NFL content. Wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a scouting report. Yesterday I did some work on the Cowboys' two new cornerbacks, Reddy Stewart and Triquezie Bridge. They both were claims. Stewart from the Minnesota Vikings, Bridge from the Chargers, and was able to kind of take a look at both of those players. Was a little bit surprised, with the moves that they made because of going into, not the surprise of the moves of going and getting players, but surprised though with the corner. You've kind of felt like that maybe that they would go if they added a defensive back or a corner, which I think there was good reason to do these things. And so if you're in a situation like that, but they went player for player on the corners, and so to take two players out who have been with you all training camp long, really the week before the Philadelphia game, and then add two new bodies to it. Kind of a bold move from Will McClay and Alex Loomis and those guys, and bold move from the coaching staff to say, hey, we could use these two guys instead of guys that we've been working with all through training camp. So, but just want to kind of talk about, like I say, with Reddy Stewart and what I saw with him, and I was also kind of talking with my gang of seven. If you follow along with me, my gang of seven is general managers, player personnel directors, guys and gals around the league that I know pretty well that do this stuff for a living and are really tied in to. So you'll hear me, if you're new, you'll hear me talk about my gang of seven. These are guys, like I say, they're my good sources as far as what they see in players. I like to look at my own, have the opportunity to watch film. And so I like to look at the player myself and kind of get an idea and then let you guys know that, educate you, and educate myself as well of what the player is. So, but I was interested because one of my gang of seven got back to me and he was talking about Stewart, and he said, listen, this is what I know about Stewart. He goes, I was kind of surprised, and he was kind of surprised that he got let go. But this is kind of what he said about it. He said, from what he knows of the kid, he goes, he's a good kid. He's kind of a rough tweener. He's not real big. He's not real fast enough for the outside, and maybe not explosive enough and strong enough for the inside. He kind of is described as a close but no cigar guy. Not a standout on teams either. He's a good kid with above average skills that competes. Not sure how he helps your active roster. Okay, that's his opinion. I saw him as a guy that does play in the slot. He will line up on the outside, but the majority of his work is on the inside. I did feel like in the games that I saw that he had some quickness to him. I felt like that they used him in the right way when they played him up as a press man. I felt like that he was able to stay with his guy. I felt like he had quick feet. He is a smaller guy. He's not a big guy by any means. Bridge on the other end is a taller, longer guy. But Stewart is more of a shorter guy, and I felt like that he could close some ground when he has to play in space. There was a time where they blitzed him, and he was able to close the ground and kind of affect the quarterback to make a poor throw. I felt like he could plant, he could drive. There was some quickness to his game that way. I saw a couple of in-breaking routes. Me, if you follow me long enough, I always judge corners on their ability to carry those inside routes. And there was a couple of times where there wasn't separation there. And now when I was watching Bridge from the Chargers, and we'll get to him, there was a little bit more of a separation there. But, this guy's when it comes to trying to stay with his man, I felt like he did a pretty decent job of that. I saw kind of a block down tackler. When I mean block down is a guy that throws his body at the legs of the receiver or ball carrier and then tries to kind of knock him down that way. But I did like the ability to adjust on the move, stay with his man. I thought he mixed it up with the blockers. There were guys that tried to get out on him, and he was trying to fight and get to where he needed to be. So really kind of two differing opinions about Reddy Stewart and what he could potentially bring. But he clearly is a nickel corner. And He played that quite a bit for the Minnesota Vikings in the summer, and he has a history. He has a little bit of a history here with Matt Eberflus and this coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, because he did play for the Chicago Bears. So Will McClay, Alex Loomis, they're looking at the waiver wire. All of a sudden the coaches come in and say, hey, we could use this guy. This would be a better nickel corner for us than, and that's how this probably all came about. And then Jaquezi Bridge, on the other hand, from the Chargers, he is a longer, taller corner. He will come forward to tackle. I think he needed a little bit better body control. And when he came forward, there was sometimes you get these corners that come flying forward and then they completely whiff on the play. I thought he needed a little bit better body control coming forward and breaking down and making the play. But he's not afraid of the contact. That was pretty evident watching him play. He plays both sides of the formation. So you could see him on the left side, you could see him on the right side. And he does well to get his hands on the receivers. When he plays up press, he plays square, he gets a hand on them, and then he's able to kind of run and adjust with them that way. He's a long strider. So, because for being a tall guy, he's got those long limbs and stuff. So I felt like he needed a little bit of a burst, maybe off zone coverage coming forward, maybe a little bit more of a burst. But I liked his feistiness. I liked the way he mixed it up. After the play, there's some chippy conversations kind of going back and forth with guys. But I see him as a press man corner because he needs to get his hands on the receiver in order to kind of make all this work. He takes a little bit longer to close the ball again because of the long limbs and again, a long guy trying to turn. So it's not like what you would see with Stewart, who's got the quick feet a little bit shorter and is like boom, 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 and then turns. But Bridge, a little bit longer guy, so it takes him a little bit more to have to turn there. So, but he's not as quick twitch as what you have from Stewart. So, those are the two guys that they claimed. Like I say, it was a little bit surprising what they did by trading corners for corners. With just a week to go, both Stewart and Bridge are going to have to come in and hit the ground running. And learn. It'll probably be a little bit easier for Stewart because of, again, the background that he has with Matt Eberflus. So he probably understands the calls and things a little bit more easier than maybe what Bridge has. But those are two moves that the Cowboys made. Trying to kind of figure out now who the 53rd player on this roster is. And so that's, if something else were to happen, if more claims, but by tomorrow this roster should be set. The practice squads are set. And it's funny, the Cowboys are kind of looking at maybe some outside guys. I always love this on practice squads. I kind of have a feeling with a practice squad, you go out and try and find somebody from some other team that you might like. We get too much in a habit of just re-signing the guys that we had all during training camp. I don't know necessarily if that helps you. If you can move on, maybe move on from some guys and go out and try and obtain a guy here and there. That to me is a little bit better. Hey, let's take a look at this guy. Let's take a look at this guy. It kind of gives you a little bit of a better feel instead of taking a look at the guys you kind of already know. So Will McClay and those guys are kind of dipping into that a little bit. So we'll see how the final practice squads play out in that way. As far as the Micah Parsons news, went to L.A. To get his back looked at, second opinion, completely within his right to go do that. But as we do this, it's getting very clear to me that Micah Parsons will not likely play in week 1. So he's going to get this opinion. We'll see. He did have an MRI here in Dallas. MRI came back negative, and he has a right to go and get his a second opinion, and he's going to do that in Los Angeles. So we'll see how that all plays out. But there's some rumors about the Green Bay stuff. I think Green Bay would absolutely be interested in this. And with Brian Gutekunst, the general manager there, he and Matt LaFleur, they have 2 more years on a contract. There's a new president or CEO of the Packers, Ed Policy. And so Ed Policy's even come out and said, hey, I'm not going to give any extensions. I'm going to evaluate. So maybe there is some pressure on Brian Gutekunst and LaFleur to go and get this done, to go out and get a player. Their division is clearly getting better with, with the Lions and the Bears and the Vikings. So they've got to compete, and maybe there's a little bit of pressure to make a deal. I think the Packers would be ready for that. I think they would be open for that. It's just a matter if the Cowboys want to pursue that angle. So I think the Packers stuff, as all teams, I think it's legit. Just what I know about the Packers, like I say, you can kind of tie in a new president, CEO of Mark Murphy, long time, now been replaced in July by Ed Policy, Carmen Policy, the executive from the 49ers through their 1980s, through their championship days. Ed has a background in football as well, but there might be a little pressure to go out and make some type of move in order to kind of get their team in line with what everybody else is doing. So keep an eye on that with the Packers, and we'll see how this Micah Parsons things plays out. Hopefully, he and Jerry Jones can find some common ground. But right now, it doesn't look like that's the case.